All right, we'll call the meeting to order. This is the meeting of the Limestone County Board of Education. Let the record show that all board members are present except for Mr. Young. I'll lead us in a word of prayer, and Mr. Glaze is going to lead us in the pledge. If you would, bow with me. Lord, thank you so much for today. Thank you for the blessings that you give each one of us, Lord. I'm so thankful for your Son dying on the cross for our sins, Lord. I'm so thankful for the hedge of protection, Lord, that you're putting around this county and our school system and our staff and faculties. They get ready to go back to school, Lord. There's a lot of unknowns, but we know that you're the great physician, Lord. You're the great healer. You're the one that knows what's coming next, Lord. So if we put our trust in you, we're going to end up being fine, Lord. So I ask all these things in Jesus' name. Amen.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
You got close. All right, gentlemen, we have an agenda. Are there any additions or deletions to the agenda? Mr. Superintendent. Okay. Anybody else have any additions here? None? All those in favor, or I need a motion to approve the agenda.
So moved.
Have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
Have a second. Do I have a motion second? All those in favor? All right, agenda's approved. All right, Mr. Superintendent.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. We have been discussing, of course, coming back to school, our plan for the 2020-2021 school year. And it's certainly a challenge, and we're not going to say that we have all the answers. But I will tell you that a lot of folks are working really hard to make sure that we develop a plan where students come back to school, they're taken care of, and where teachers are taken care of, and where teachers are safe when they come back to school in the fall. You know, I think that when we think about our students in Limestone County, it's very important that they're in school. The best education they can receive is face-to-face instruction. I don't think anyone will argue that point. You know, it's just how can we do that safely and organized. And, you know, we talked a little bit this morning about it'd be great if we had a one-page document that told us everything we needed to do. But that's not out there. So we have to weed through the information and try to develop a plan as far as what we feel like will benefit our students, take care of our teachers, and provide the best education possible for the Limestone students. Just a couple updates for you. You know, the plans are that we'll have the face-to-face instruction. School will start back on August 7th. We've said that all along, and I think that's really important. That we have school. A lot of parents, when you think back to the spring when we shut down before, you know, a lot of parents were off as well. But now a lot of parents are working, and they don't have the resources maybe to take care of their kids. And you think about food service and the importance of making sure that students are fed every day at school. So there's a lot of factors, I think, that make it really important for us to have school in the fall to take care of our students. And, you know, we are essential. I say this all the time, but education is essential to this county, to this nation, to this state, that we have education, and that we have school, and that students benefit from having school. The virtual instruction is scheduled to start a little bit later on August 12th. That'll give a little more time to plan and get that up and running. And the number of students, and I want to tell the board this, the number of students who have signed up for virtual instruction is 1,968 students. Okay, 1,968 students. And, you know, that's about a quarter of our population in round numbers. So 3/4 as of right now are planning to come back to school, and the deadline was last Friday. They do have to commit to a semester-long commitment. When they sign up for virtual, we didn't want students going back and forth. That would create hardships on our teachers and planning. And if you're going to hire teachers for virtual instruction, you can't have them going back and forth either. So we felt like it was important for individuals to commit for at least a semester long commitment so that we can make plans moving forward in the fall. The face-to-face summer school programs, you know, we've had some employees that have been exposed to individual with COVID. We've had some that have tested positive, And we feel like it's really important that we needed to cancel the summer program. A lot of planning, Dr. Lewis went into to planning for that program, and that was going to be a great program for our students. But we just felt like that we couldn't do face-to-face, that it was going to be difficult to start school in the fall if we had an outbreak or something during summer. So we really want to focus on starting on August 7th. There will be, the reading program will be virtual, so students will get a benefit, but they just won't have the face-to-face instruction for the summer. The first month of school, and this kind of goes along with, I think, board meetings as well, really want to look at not having many activities at the school after school, because I think we need to focus on the time that students are there. You know, Steve's got plans to come in and clean the buildings every day and make sure they're sanitized and make sure they're ready to go the following day. So I think it's really important that first month that we really limit activities at the school. Now, sports are still out there, and that's still allowed, as you know, but any of the other activities, we just need to limit that so we can make sure we have a good handle on making sure everyone's taken care of.
And gentlemen, that goes for the board meetings as well. We're going to keep the board meetings here to keep them from having to re-sanitize after they've sanitized for the day. So we will get back to the schools eventually, but right now I just think it's better to just do it here, and we'll stay out of the schools as much as possible.
What we'd like to do is get that 1 month under our belt, and then we can revisit and see where we go from there. I just think if we can get the 1 month down and make sure we're meeting everyone's needs, that would be really, really important. Of course, we're following the latest CDC guidelines and Alabama Department of Public Health guidelines, and those change occasionally. And that's what, the question came up about masks. The original roadmap didn't call for students wearing masks. We'll continue to visit that and look at that and make some determination. But like I said, it's almost changes on a daily basis, certainly a weekly basis as far as the guidelines. But the roadmap that was laid out by Superintendent Mackey didn't call for every student wearing masks.
Can I ask a question?
Certainly.
If a parent feels strongly about their child wearing a mask, then by all
Certainly,
means,
certainly,
they can send
yeah.
their child with a mask.
Certainly.
Okay.
There's
That's
right,
up
no
to
argument there, and we encourage that. If that's something they feel like they need to do, the students definitely can wear masks to school.
I had a question also.
Yes, sir.
If we have COVID issues in Limestone County school system when we start back, will the state superintendent, will we have to issue some information as to what's happening here in Limestone County so that he can make that discretion as to whether he's going to give us opportunity to close it or to keep it going? I mean, who will make that decision?
I think that all falls back to a local decision, quite honestly, based on the situation in the county. They've got the different counties as far as coding the different counties as far as red, green, if you're in good shape and so forth. So I think ultimately that would be a local district decision.
And there will be numbers that plays into that we're getting from the health department that tells us where we are, what colors we are.
We have not had that conversation with the health department at this point, but I think, when you look at flu epidemic, for example, when you have a certain number of students out, you would close the school, for example. With COVID, I think you're going to have to look at the hot spots throughout the county. You may have one school that has a lot of cases, and we need to do more there than we do, other schools because they're not a hot spot within the district. But ultimately, and someone can correct me if I'm wrong, ultimately I think it all falls back, even the roadmap, to starting back, ultimately it falls back to the local system to develop the plan moving forward.
So we'll have an option. If we have a hot spot in one school, we can shut that school down without interfering with the other schools.
Yes, sir. We can. And that's something that's a little different. I know when we have, a storm day or something, you may shut the whole system down. But I think with this, you're going to have to look at hot spots and decide that one school may have to be shut down for a little while the others continue to go forward. Of course, the district continues to evaluate safety measures, and we'll update as often as needed based on the best medical information available. Marching band is something that's really important in this district, and of course, most of those classes, Dr. Lewis, for 6th and 7th period, so that's something that, students want to continue being involved with, and also sports. Even if they're virtual, they can still participate in sports in the district. And as far as the Career Tech Center, I know that's been a question that's come up. We're really looking at that on a case-by-case basis. I think there will be some students that have some needs that they'll need to be in a program there. And so, we don't know. We don't want to be overwhelmed with students taking one particular class, but we'll look at that on an individual basis. And transportation will not be provided there to CDC. But there will be some cases, I think, where we really need to allow a student based on their needs as far as, what program they're in, that kind of thing. But we don't want to overload CDC where there's too many students in a class, for example, because they make that decision. The state of Alabama is providing.
Let me
Yeah, go
clarify.
ahead.
So we're not going to transport kids from the high schools to the.
Right, the face-to-face kids are going to be transported. I'm
Okay,
talking about the
okay,
virtual.
okay.
I'm sorry, the virtual
Like if a
students.
virtual kid needed to come in for one class, but
Okay.
his whole day's not virtual.
Okay, all right, I'm
We
with you.
won't provide, we
We
won't send him a bus.
transportation, right?
I
for that.
misunderstood what
Yeah,
you
I'm
were
sorry.
saying.
Yeah,
I thought
I'll clarify
yeah.
that. So yeah, that's what I meant to say, right? The of course, the state of Alabama is providing K-5 virtual curriculum through school PLP, and we talked today about staffing those programs, and then Edgenuity 6 through 12. We talked about staffing those as well. With all the students that we have, unfortunately, it won't be a perfect match. With the almost 2,000 students that we have leaving, they won't all be in a certain class, and so you won't be able to utilize that teacher. But we've got meetings with principals tomorrow to talk about, can they survey their teachers, find out who wants to teach virtually, and then also find out what students they have that are going virtual, so we can determine if any school can possibly share a teacher so that they can teach virtually, so you don't have to go out and hire a lot of new teachers. And of course, that will take some work to make sure all that works out. I think the district and the nurse, Steve, everyone's done a really good job with ordering supplies to be ready for the fall, and that took place 2 months ago, really, and started taking place every month, talking about what do we need. We talked about the CARES Act funding last meeting, but social distancing, hand sanitation, random temperature checks is something. We're ordering some equipment to check temps at different schools, maybe Mr. Shoulders, based on where a hot spot might occur, and then just making the right choices regarding attending school. But I just wanted to kind of update the board, kind of what we're doing. I don't know if you've heard, a lot of comments about kind of with the direction we're moving. Dr. Tucker did a great job with questions and answers, and we tried to answer everyone's question that had a question about coming back to school. And so I don't know if the board has any questions in particular.
I have one more. We have a lot of elderly people employed with Limestone County, and some of them have underlying conditions. Now, if they are a little reluctant to come back into the school system, what are the guidelines for states are giving us to deal with that situation?
Well, and we're actually, asked teachers earlier, and employees who couldn't come back. And so that was something, some of those teachers may be able to teach virtual classes. That's something we're kind of looking at. But I think it's on a case-by-case basis, and that we'll, try to work with that employee. And, of course, there's some protection already in place with the federal act that's out there. But we'll work with that employee. We don't want, if they have 2 underlying health conditions, or they're 65 and older, we need to help them out and look at what they're doing. And there may be some other jobs that they could do that they wouldn't be around as many people too. So we certainly want to take care of our employees.
Okay.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but the FMLA for COVID does not cover the fear of contracting the disease. So we've got to be very careful. Just because a person has an anxiety, that's not a reason that you get to stay home for 14 days or 28 days and get paid, because the government. I mean, that's not included.
I've shared with Dr. Strauss. He hadn't had a chance to look at it. There's a question and answer that the State Department sent out about, and it answers those questions like you just asked.
Right.
What are the underlying health conditions that would qualify me for that Family First Act?
Right.
So I think that'll be good to get out for our employees so they know, some general questions and answers. I said I wanted him to review it first before we send it out. So we just-
And we talked about that this morning, that being important to send something out so that everyone could see, you know, what the requirements were. So, thank you.
So a person that has those underlying conditions, or whether they not have, if they are reluctant and they say, you know, I just can't go back. You know, my health means more to me than, you know, that paycheck right now. I mean, are we in a position that we can work with those people, or do we just have to terminate them if they don't meet certain requirements that the state has laid out for us?
And I think we work with them. I mean, I think that's our goal, is to not have to do that. But I think that we have to also follow the law and what the requirements are under that Family First Act. You know, so, I mean, obviously, we're gonna try to work with them first, but we also have to have teachers to teach, you know, students before open. So, I think that's just something, again, case-by-case basis that we have to work off of.
I mean, you want to be consistent and fair, of course, and how
Well,
you deal
that's
with
my
that.
concern,
you know.
is I don't, you know, I mean, it starts out with just two people, and you think, oh my God, this is so-and-so, and we want to help them out, so let's do something. Next thing you know, everybody gets a wind of it, and now you got 40 of those so-and-sos that want something, and now I mean, if everybody wanted to teach online, I don't think, somebody's got to come to school and teach, so we just got to be consistent and follow the policy, and then.
Follow the law.
Yeah,
Follow the law.
and then we're, you know, even though it sounds terrible, because if you've got somebody you know and it's just one person and they've made a request and you want to help them, but that one request going to turn into 100.
Well, I guess I'm thinking on the worst case scenario, you have a teacher that goes out and that teacher passes away from COVID, and then you've got other people
Yeah.
that are saying, hey, I'm not going back,
Yes.
going back
No,
to
and
that school today.
yep.
You know, what do we do?
Yeah.
I mean, we have to answer those questions.
Right.
I think the good news when we sent the survey out about teachers wanting to come back, you know, was very few at that point that indicated they did not want to come back. So, by and large, the majority, I can't remember the exact number, but
We probably had less than 10.
right, it was very, very few that indicated they had a concern about coming back. So I thought that was good news.
Steve, are we doing anything in the classroom, like putting a shield up so the teacher can be behind that, or giving them any kind of, what are we doing there? Anything?
Nothing in the classroom so far.
Okay, because that might be an option, is, you know, those plexiglass shields that you're putting down, you know, if you've got a certain area and you kind of keep the students 6 feet away from the teachers, so if somebody that's got this anxiety or they've got an underlying condition but they want to come to work, or we can't make an accommodation, then we can do some things to create in their mind a safer space. It won't be safe, but it's safer, and that might be an option. So
I know we talked about, you know, of course, teachers wearing masks and face shields and
Yep.
providing those for teachers to help with that.
And there's,
Go ahead.
yes, sir.
Dr. Tucker, the 2,000 students that will be learning from home, they will have a laptop that we're providing, is that correct?
We requested of the online applications that do you need a device or not?
Okay.
And you would be shocked that of the 2,000, less than 500
Oh,
need a
really?
device.
Really?
And
Okay.
they too receive
So I had that question asked me today at work.
Yeah, it was 477 was the number of requests for devices.
I figure it's going to be internet connection more than it's going to be a laptop.
That was part of the.
And we can't, I'm sure we can't do anything about that, right? I know.
The
Yeah.
application, they must have reliable.
The state's providing a little more funding to help with that, like on school buses, for example, but we don't know when all that's going to come down our way. But they are providing some more financial assistance on that. That's all I had.
All right. Ms. Hubbard, sorry.
I got here with May, 8/12, 66% of the way through the year. If you look at our local revenue, we're at 91%, we're collecting $19.5 million in local revenue. Our expenditures are at 64%, so we're less than the 66. Our fund balance, we need $7.3 million for 1 month, and we're at $19.4 million, so we're at 2.64 months. We were at 19 million last month, so we kind of held the same. We went up just a little bit, a couple $100,000, but we were holding the line. And if you look at the chart on the back, it shows that. And I also gave you, I did a spreadsheet to show us what our revenue and expenses were per month. It started in October and went through May. So you can tell that our expenditures, you can look at transportation and tell that those expenditures in March, they were going down. And our other expenditures were as well. Instructional services includes salaries, you can see that April was the first month we were out in expenses, they were down. And they were down in May also, because we're running about 7 million, and we're 6.6 million. So auxiliary services and transportation, and the expenses we see there are salaries for the transportation for Rusty and his workers. I know in May, they were still down some, but I know they started doing, some of the summer maintenance on the buses. And that's about all I've got tonight, unless y'all got questions. I just wanted y'all to see the revenue and expenses per month. And we have capped out on our, the 1 penny, that's our lawsuit penny, we've hit that floor, so we won't collect any more of that for the end of the year. But we have collected, it's already hit the 9.8 million that we split with Athens. But we still collect our other penny and our TVA and the taxes and all the other local forces we get. Questions?
So with the transportation money, the state, they've already sent that to us? Is that,
Get that monthly.
okay. So have they cut back what,
No, we get it in 12s. So
Okay.
what they told us.
so when the new budget cycle comes around, because we haven't used some of this transportation money, will they cut our funding any?
No, they're not gonna cut our funding any. We've already saw the budget for 2021, what we're gonna get. And it's gonna stay relatively the same as what it was before. But, you know, we did buy those buses and we bought them on the deferred payment plan. So we will get funded for those 30 new buses that we bought in our fleet renewal. So the state has told us that they're gonna be lenient this year. If we have money left over, you know, usually you have to spend it all in the fiscal year. And I verified that with, the State Department actually on Friday, that they are gonna be lenient and let us carry that money over if we have money left.
Remind me, the bond issue passed?
Yes.
So
everything will
are we putting together a plan, or when do we have to have a plan put together, or what, briefly?
We don't have the plan for that yet. We don't know exactly when that money's gonna come. I think the way I've read it's gonna be structured, it'll be structured like our PSCA money, like our leverage fund money, but we'll still get it. And, so we'll have to decide. You know, they've told us we can use that money to pay down some of our debt, so that might be something we want to look at.
Okay.
And, in other needs we may have, Dr. Strauss and I are gonna get together and look at that.
And then we got our special allocation for the technology fund,
The EMT funds, yeah.
half of that, with the anticipation that the other half might come after January.
Yeah.
They haven't sent it yet, but yes, they're
she's
supposed to
good.
send it to us.
She's resigning because of
And that's about 5, we're getting 2.5, and we might get 2.5. They're not gonna keep it all, right? They're gonna give it to
No,
us,
they
they're
have
just,
to give it to us, it's just when they,
yeah,
when they
okay.
give it to us.
So, all right, okay. That's all I got.
Later than when we got it last year.
Probably a little later.
Yeah, I would think so,
Thought we were.
yeah. Okay.
Well, the bond money, we want to look at some of the existing debt, look at the terms of that debt, and decide if we need to pay any of that debt off.
Okay.
And then also look at some new projects too. I think you've got enough with 13 million to do some of both. And I think that would be a great board workshop to talk about what direction we want to do once we kind of find out a little more. And we can provide that information to the board.
Okay.
We really weren't expecting that money, we really wasn't expecting bond issue to happen this year. We figured they would pull the brakes on it,
Right.
and everything going on, and they did.
Okay, good. All right, any questions from Ms. Hubbard? You all good? Okay, we'll move on. Thank you, Ms. Hubbard. All right, we've got a consent agenda. Can I get a motion to approve the consent agenda?
I'll offer.
All right, Mr. Chris offers a motion. Do I have a second? Second, Mr. Hilliard. All those in favor? Motion carries. All right, hang on, I don't have it right here. Okay, discussion approval of personnel action. Do I have a motion to approve item 7?
I'll offer.
Mr. Chris offers a motion. Do I have a second?
Second?
Mr. Glaze offers a second. Are there any discussions or questions regarding item 7? All right, hearing none. All those in favor? All right, motion carries. All right, item 8 is discussion approval of a well system for Elmont High School for the football, baseball, and softball fields. This is a grant, and it's at no cost to the Limestone County Board. Do I have a motion to approve item 8?
I'll make a motion.
All right, Mr. Winter makes a motion. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Second, Mr. Hilliard. Any discussion or questions? All right, hearing none, all those in favor? All right, motion carries. Item 9 is the discussion approval of the May 2020 bank reconciliation and financials. Do I have a motion to approve item 9?
Offer motion.
Mr. Shoulders offers a motion. Do I have a second? I'll offer a second. Do any questions or comments? Hearing none, all those in favor? All right, motion carries. Item 10 is discussion approval of renewal of joint purchasing agreement with the Athens City Schools for the Child Nutrition Program for 2020-2021 school year, with the option to extend the agreement for an additional 5 years. Do I have a motion to approve item 10?
I'll offer.
Mr. Chris offers a motion. To have a second?
Second.
Mr. Winter offers a second. Any questions or comments? All right, hearing none. All those in favor? All right, motion carries. Item 11 is discussion approval of purchase of 7 27-inch IMAX with Retina 5K display at a total cost of $14,903. 7 12.9-inch iPad Pros at a total cost of $6,293. 7 Apple second-generation pencils at a total cost of $833. And 7 smart keyboard folios for iPad Pro at a total cost of $1,253. This is for use by the special ed department, and this is carryover funds from 18-19. Total cost is $23,282. Do I have a motion to approve item
I'll offer
11?
motion.
Mr. Shoulders offers a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
Young arm wrestle for it. Mr. Glaze gets a second. Do I have any questions or comments? Hearing none, all those in favor? All right, item 11 carries. Item 12 is discussion approval of AP Music Theory textbook. It is funded through the state textbook funds. Do I have a motion to approve item 12?
Motion.
Motion of Mr. Winter. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Mr. Hilliard offers a second. Any questions or comments? All right, hearing none, all those in favor? Motion carries. Item 13 is discussion approval of the 2020-2021 school board meeting schedule. Do I have a motion to approve item 13?
I'll offer motion.
All right, Mr. Glaze offers a motion as a second. I'll offer the second. If you looked at the meeting, we've got it through the annex through August, TBD on the rest of the locations, but I think we'd want to go through Labor Day at least, so probably through September. So it doesn't say that on the schedule, but let's just kind of plan, if you guys are okay with it, to schedule these meetings in the annex through September. We'll reconvene at the September meeting and see if we need to move it around, or we may still want to do it to the end of the year, and we'll just kind of play that by ear. All right.
How long are we gonna do this, the online? Are we getting any hits on that?
I don't, Dr. Tucker, I don't know.
Who knows that answer? Are we getting people watching this, or are we just?
I can give you that answer later.
Okay.
People claim to watch it.
They're watching.
I can't
yeah.
prove they are. Claim to watch it.
She can tell us.
Okay. All right, so we have a motion and a second. All those in favor of the schedule? Motion carries. Item 14 is discussion approval agreement between Limestone County School Board and the Orthopedic Center TOC to provide sports medicine services for all 6 high schools from July 14, 2020 to June 30, 2025. Do I have a motion to approve item 14?
I'll make a motion.
Mr. Winter makes the motion. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Mr. Chris offers a second. Any questions or comments?
I'd just like some clarification, let the superintendent tell us, I know they met today with some concerns that I had, and he's addressed those, but for the media, would you, what set the two apart to make this recommendation?
Yes, sir. We did have a meeting today with both groups, and I'll tell you, Encore and Sports Med came back with a lot of the same, terms basically as TOC had. When I look back at some of the past and what TOC's done for the district, and one example is student physicals, and even schools that they did not serve, they allowed students to bus over and get a physical, a $10 physical, which goes back to the actual school site itself. And Encore, they'll do that same payment back, but that was something that really was done before this agreement was even talked about. So to me, that was something that was very positive. Something else the bus driver physicals, and it only costs our bus drivers $20 to get a physical, and that's really strong because otherwise they'd have to pay a great deal more to get their physical each year. So that's a good service, and that was done in the past too, and that was something I didn't realize last time that TOC actually gave to us. And then, of course, the ambulance service, which is through the hospital. They provided an ambulance at each game. And I think my understanding is they even paid for ambulance services at schools that they did not serve last year. They actually stepped up and paid for some of those, which, of course, saves the school money. I mean, both groups are good. There's nothing that you can say, bad about one group or the other. But I think when you look at the county as a whole, and one group being the one group that we would go with, there's just a lot of advantages to our students, a lot of advantages to our employees. The health plan for our employees, the wellness plan for our employees, that's something that we haven't had before. And so our employees are a big winner, those that want to take advantage of it. And, not everyone's going to take advantage of it, but there'll be some, I think, that will give them a better life. They'll be healthier, and we know with all the health situations going on now that's pretty important. And something I didn't realize too, they also provide, like, if a teacher has an injury, they can call and get in to see a doctor really quickly. Any teacher in the system, and I think that's a positive as well. That they have that connection because of our relationship with them. And then they also have the working with coaches on improving our athletes. They can come out to the schools and develop plans. A volleyball coach, for example, they can come out and develop a plan for that team. A lot of times coaches, don't feel really comfortable with developing a weightlifting type plan for their athletes, and they're willing to do that. And then their workout facility, of course, is a very large facility. They could handle a large number of our employees there as well. So, there's some money involved as far as going to the schools. Both offered that in some capacity. In the end, they became very, very close. But I just feel like overall, TOC, because of using local doctors, the hospital, the ambulance service, it just seems like better for our students and faculty here in Limestone County. And so that's why, I made the recommendation to approve this, because I do believe, although both programs are good, and we did talk to all principals today as well, just to make sure they were okay with that moving forward as well. But, TOC will be the people that answer to us. I mean, the contract's with them, and they have to provide all those services. So that's the people that we would go to if we're not satisfied with something. And something that Mr. Glaze did ask me was, is there an opt-out clause? And it's a 60-day opt-out clause by either party. So if for some reason it didn't work out, you always have the option to get out of the contract within 60 days.
Well, my concern was last year, one of the schools for a while didn't have a trainer, and we were told at the last board meeting that group, the TOC group, was not the provider. Well, that was false information that was given to us, because the TOC representative reached out to me and told me, yes, that was our responsibility, and he explained what all went on. But the information that we were given at the board meeting last time about it was a different company was not accurate. And that was one of the concerns I had. Why were we going with this company when they wasn't providing the service? But the superintendent and this TOC representative, they reached out to me. I understand what went on now.
Yeah, it was actually Miss Tribble School
Right.
where that they had a little. I think someone moved back somewhere and they didn't have one for a
We went
while.
back, and then we tried to hire. We couldn't hire somebody there was no available trainers for about 2 months.
Right.
And then we eventually, at the end of the year, hired another person. So it just was a rough year.
Does that answer? Okay. Any other questions or comments? I appreciate. I know we delayed it, and we made you guys work a little harder, and that wasn't the intent. But I think I feel better voting for something that we feel like has been vetted, and that our system's done a good job of including you know, this community we all live in, and I want to make sure we don't alienate somebody or make somebody think one thing or the other. So we've given them an opportunity and pick the best folks for our, you know, our system, and we'll move forward. If we don't like it in 60 days, we'll terminate it and go somewhere else.
Go
So,
somewhere else. But
all right.
we don't plan on that happening, so.
All right, good. All right, no more questions. We got a motion and a second. All those in favor? Motion carries. Thank you. Item 15 is discussion approval of a memorandum of agreement between Limestone County Schools and the University of North Alabama for joint implementation of the LEAD initiative. Do I have a motion to approve item 15?
I'll make a motion.
Mr. Hillier makes a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second, Mr. Winter. Any questions or comments?
I would say it's a real benefit for our employees. They can get their master's, specialist degree, reduce cost, and so I think it's a win-win for our employees in Limestone County.
Good. All right. All right, we have motion second. All those in favor? All right, motion carries. All right, gentlemen, that concludes the agenda. I appreciate everybody's efforts, and this meeting's adjourned. Thank you.